What's up, guys? It's Nofsky with Academia Audio, and today I'll be showing you how I made this. So this is a little future-based drop I threw together kind of in the realm of Louis the Child. They inspired me to do this. A few of their songs like Gone with Elderbrook or um, Space Jam or Better Not, all of those kind of styles combined just to get a whole vision of how to sound like Louis the Child. So before we dive in, there's a few things about Louis the Child that I'd like to point out that I feel helped me kind of go after their sound. So the first thing I want to point out about Louis the Child is I've noticed they always have these very fun, light-hearted melodies. Awesome lead lines that are just catchy enough, not too cheesy, but just right there in the sweet spot of perfection. Anytime I'm listening to a Louis the Child song, it always leaves me feeling just like summer vibes, kind of carefree, and this is their sound as a whole. There's some songs they have that are a little more deeper, but as a whole, it's all just really great carefree music. The second thing I want to point out about Louis the Child is their drums. I feel like a lot of times when they have the drums in their song, they almost sound distorted in a bad quality kind of way, but it sounds really good. I don't know if that makes any sense, but what I'm trying to say is their drums never sound like absolutely crystal clear, perfect in the mix. They're all just, they go after that sound of it's just kind of, they're heavily distorted and just kind of there, and it sounds really, really good. The last thing I want to point out, and it kind of goes with number one, is their sound selection. I've noticed a lot of their lead lines or actual sounds that they're utilizing in their tracks are more on the bubbly, fun, cute sounding, just, I keep saying carefree, but carefree sounding sound selection. So without any further ado, let's dive in. So the first thing I want to hone in on is the synth bus. I have a few things going on here. The first is I have our synths, and this is what they sound like. And then I also have a reversed version of that, and I did that by just taking this chord here and washing it out in reverb and then rendering it out to audio, and then go ahead and just fade it in there. So it goes from this to this. So it's just a little more subtle, and it's a nice little filler to kind of whip you into that next section. Let's go over how I made these right here. So I have two synths going on different tracks with different timings. Let me go ahead and pull up both of them for you. So these are both the synths that I'm using. This one's more of the stabby one, and this one's more of the wobble synth. And I have this one on trigger, and I have this one off, and it has a 1/16 rate telling this LFO to bounce the volume and the cutoff filter to kind of give it that whipping motion. So both these sounds are pretty much identical except for the LFOs. But all I did to make these was I had a basic shape wavetable, two of them. I have this one on a square, this one on a saw, and then I'm automating it with the LFO volume-wise, and then I'm also have a low filter with the cutoff being automated by LFO1. As far as effects, I have a little bit of a dimension expansion going on, a little bit of distortion on the downsample, and that kind of plays into when I was talking about the drums being lesser quality. By utilizing the downsample distortion, it actually lessens the quality of the audio, and it kind of gives it that effect. Next, I have some chorus to kind of widen it up, and then a filter on the formant 1, just to give it a unique tonality. That is all that's going on as far as the synths go. I do have a little more that I'm processing the whole bus with on some saturation, a little bit of EQ, and then sidechain. I also have this lead going, and it's kind of following the vocal chop, and this is what that sounds like. So, and I have a little bit of micro shift just to kind of pan it out to the sides to make space for that vocal chop to come in front and center. And this is another sound from one of our Exhale serum packs. If you guys haven't checked that out, we have a whole sound bank down below. So go click on that and check it out. It's really, really powerful. Now, on the second part of the drop, I do bring in another lead synth just to kind of amp up that lead line a little bit to make things a little different. If we had a whole drop and we kind of played the same thing over and over, it'd get really repetitive. But by changing it every now and then, implementing different sounds or changing up the drum groove or things like that, it keeps the listener interested. And so I do have this sound come in, and this is another sound from our Exhale Serum pack. And this is what that sounds like. And that pretty much wraps up the whole synth bus. Not a lot going on. Let's go ahead and listen to it all together. Let's dive into our bass bus next. A lot of simple things going on. I have our usual sub that I like to use. I have our compression going on. I have our bass, and then I also have some EQ, just kind of holding it in that pocket between 40 and 100 hertz to get a nice consistent bass line. Now, that was our sub, but I still wanted a little more grit on the top end of the bass, so I went ahead and added another layer. All I did for that layer was just a simple serum patch I threw together. It's just the default wavetable right here. I added a solid rounded, FM'd it from B. Here, I dipped that down an octave. I left that at 0. I have a high pass going on, but notice none of the oscillators are going to it. And this is a little trick I learned from Big Z, is I went ahead and I have a noise because I wanted to kind of brighten up the sound just a little bit, and I'm sending the noise through here, and by utilizing this, I'm able to cut all the low frequencies from the noise so I can just take off the high part of the noise to mix in with the sound. Next, I have a few effects going on. All I have is a little bit of distortion on the hard clip setting, and then a low 18 filter just to kind of bring down some of those highs on the sound overall. Next, I do have some distortion, and then I also have an EQ, cutting everything below 136 and everything above 511, just kind of keeping it in that pocket. And this is what those sound like all together. As far as processing goes, I just have a side chain and then a little bit of compression going on right there, and that is it. That pretty much wraps up the bass bus. Let's jump over to the drums. When I was building out the drums for this track, I did reference the song Better Not by Louis the Child, and in that song there's a lead line that comes in, and then there's just a kick and a snare, and it's really clean, really basic, and it just kind of creates this little groove, and that's kind of what I was going for. And so as far as the kick, I just have our normal kick going on from our Genesis pack. This is what it sounds like. I have our snare bus going on. So, and all I'm doing for the snare bus is I chose a snare that was nice and tight. That was something else I noticed from the Louis the Child songs, is they have really nice and tight snares. So I actually went with a mid-tempo snare, and this is what that sounds like. I also have another snare clap, and then I have some fills going on as well, and this is what those sound like. So just really basic stuff, just choosing quality samples that kind of fit the vibe that you're going for, and in this case it was Louis the Child. Next, I do bring in a little bit of percussion loop. It's kind of like a weird percussion, but I thought it sounded pretty cool. And I did take one of those just to kind of accent that first snare hit. Next, I do have a shaker loop going on as well. Then I have this little rattle guy in the fills, and then I have some hats. And that is it for the drums. I do have a little bit of processing going on, just a little bit of saturation, and then a little bit of compression. And that is it. These are the drums all together. Next, as far as effects go, I have 3 going on, and one of them is a pretty key point of the song. This is just a collection of vocal chops from the Hyperbits pack that I went ahead and chopped up. I took a bunch of vocal chops from a bunch of different vocal chop loops and just kind of chopped them up, and this is what I came up with. And that pumping sound that you're hearing is actually coming from a side chain. I have it on the whole bus. Typically, I wouldn't throw it on the whole bus, but I only have 3 effects, and all of them I kind of wanted to be side chained, and this one isn't even happening during the drop. So next, I do have a sweep going on. And then I do have a vocal one shot that I reverse to kind of whip into the drop. And that is it, guys. Super simple drop. The few key takeaways I would say is when you're trying to sound like Louis the Child, go ahead and choose a chord progression that's appropriate to them. Kind of fun, upbeat, lighthearted. And then when it comes to actual sound selection, go ahead and choose those cute, bubbly, carefree kind of leads and effects. And don't be afraid to reference a few of their tracks. And this goes for any artist that you're trying to sound like. You can go ahead and reference a bunch of their tracks, kind of take away some key things, and then create your own thing out of it and put your own twist. There's no shame in copying. You know, there's no original chord progression anymore. Any music you create is going to be some kind of copy in some form or another. It's all about putting your own unique twist and utilizing the same instruments and plugins that that artist might be using, but use them in your own way. So that pretty much wraps up this video, guys. Again, if you guys like the sounds in this video, they're 100% from my Serum bank, so go check that out. There are also a lot of samples from our Genesis pack. Just go check out the links down below. We do have a free gift for you guys. It is our free template. We have a whole video explaining how this template is going to help you start and stay in the creative flow, so definitely go check that out. Watch that video. Thank you so much for your support. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I hope this inspired you. You guys have a blessed day. Peace.